You're listening to Alternative Future Radio, home of the weird, resting place of the paranormal. We'll take you to the furthest reaches of the galaxy and beyond. Strange phenomena, aliens, psychics, cryptozoology, conspiracy, holistic health, and UFOs. Alternative Future Radio, where spooky just got weird.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to a fine quality edition of the Out There Hour.
The Out There Hour on Alternative Future Radio. The Out There Hour with Basil and Mark. www.alternativefutureradio.com.
Yay! No? No yay?
Good morning, Mark.
Good evening, Basil.
And good afternoon.
The world. That didn't go well.
Today we got that a bit mixed up. Today we've got our friend
Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Ben's brilliant. He's brilliant. That's the only description he needs.
He's brilliant. He's a hospital porter against the New World Order.
Yes, he's a one-man mission. He's like the Hulk.
He's a one-man mission. He's got a lot of followers, mind you.
He is, yeah.
On his YouTube channels and his website.
Yeah, very popular on YouTube. Makes lots of videos. He actually should really get a lot more views on his YouTube videos because they're well thought out and very educational.
Yeah.
He's very accurate with his facts, his old Ben.
Sacked without explanation after working for 23 years as a porter.
He was, yeah.
For his political views.
Bit dodgy, that, isn't it?
And attending conferences and speaking engagements.
Yeah, you can catch him at all sorts of conferences. He's out and about, Ben. He's a bit like a roving reporter.
The powers that be didn't seem to appreciate it, and they let poor old Ben go.
They did. And he spoke about that on the last episode that he was on with us. And, today we're going to be covering all sorts of things. We're going to start off with
media manipulation.
Ooh. We also wanted to cover secret societies and the connections between that and media manipulation.
Exactly. Does the media control our minds through our subconscious?
Who are they?
Through the means of TV, magazines, movie, political correctness.
Yeah, who are they? What are they up to?
Who are they?
Who gains?
Why are they doing it?
Yeah, what's that all about?
Let's find out, shall we?
We'll get him on, shall we? You know what comes first?
Are you ready for an adventure? Prepare yourself for more alternative future radio than any human being should have access to. How do you get this? It's simple. With the new Alternative Future Radio Android application, you can download all the latest shows and the archived shows as well. Help support Alternative Future Radio for just $1.99. PayPal will bill you in your very own currency if you don't use dollars. Find out more at alternativefutureradio.com.
Okay, so hopefully on the line, all things being equal, we should have our good buddy, Ben Emlyn-Jones. Hello, Ben.
You have me. I'm here.
Aha! Excellent.
Hello, Ben, my old mate. How are you?
Oh, hi, Basil. I'm fine, mate. Are you?
Yeah, you're keeping busy, as usual?
Oh, very, yes, very at the moment.
I've been watching your video. Is it safe to call them rants, Ben? I think video rant is probably. I think if that's a new term, you could probably call them video rants about the Queen's Jubilee.
Oh yes, I had a very good rant about that. I did a whole two whole sort of like sections of videos about that, and I did have a lot to say about that.
You did.
The Diamond Jubilee just passed.
Yes, yeah.
Which was I felt it quite frustrating actually, you know, because there's lots of well-meaning people, you know, who really do. They like this woman, and I find it hard to understand in a way because she's very dark-eyed, kind of very reticent, this ghoulish old thing. She's just sort of like crouches there very menacingly, you know, and doesn't have much facial expression. Occasionally gives a smirk, and people love her. People, you know, there was millions of people. There was 1 million people in London on the day of the Thames pageant, and there's thousands more in, you know, yesterday.
I wonder how many were tourists, though, Ben. How many Londoners turned out?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are foreign, because you know, they interviewed a few of them. They said, "Oh, we've come all the way from Papua New Guinea or whatever."
Yeah.
You know, but
from the colonies.
Time. Yeah. I mean, oh yeah. I mean, I made a good point. The fact that there was the Commonwealth. I mean, this is a very in a sort of like euphemistic, sort of politically correct sense. You could say the Commonwealth was represented. There was lots of little black and brown children singing, and but then the thing is about empires do this. The Romans used to do this. They used to bring the people in from their conquered regions and let them sort of carry out their rituals in public. But it wasn't done. It was a kind of curiosity. It was almost like a court jesters.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually an exercise in power when they do this. They can say, look, these are our conquered peoples. We rule you, but we're going to let you carry on with these rituals, which you take very seriously, these dances and war dances and love dances and and shamanic rites. But for us, they're just entertainment. We just do it because we own you.
Mm. Oh yeah, they just parade one of everything.
Yeah, this is the thing. They let the Maoris with their canoe. The barge was escorted by some Maoris in a traditional New Zealand canoe, and things like that. There was a black man, a black gay man there. I remember, and he was dressed up in a very elaborate costume, and he was making a big I think he felt he was asserting, both his homosexuality and the fact that he was black from one of the colonies. But I think he was not. He may have felt he was asserting himself, but again, I think he was the one being paraded. He was being sort of pilloried as a shackled people, both in terms of his sexuality and his nationality.
Yeah, yeah. I take it you weren't there waving your flag then, Ben?
I somehow found better things to do, like sit in front of the TV and just. I mean, I did drink quite a lot, actually. I think it's good for 24 days, or I would end up like Oliver Reed. I tell you.
Yeah.
Thank God it's over.
Yeah, I mean, if that had gone on for any longer, Ben, you would have needed rehab by the time the next Jubilee came. I'm sure she'll live to 120.
I think the only fun bit was they did the party in St James's Park. They put out all the Jubilee memorabilia, and there's one piece of Jubilee memorabilia they showed on TV, which I do approve of, and I think is very appropriate. They actually have a Diamond Jubilee sick bag.
Fantastic.
And I think that is something I might perhaps purchase.
Yeah, get one off eBay or something.
Yeah.
Diamond Jubilee sick bag.
I'm not kidding.
I'm going to throw a topic at you.
Oh, go on.
Okay.
Both of you.
Oh.
Yes.
Media manipulation.
Yes.
Does the media control our minds subconsciously?
Oh, taglines, Basil. Good grief. He comes out with questions and he straps a tagline to him just to make him sound even more professional.
Any thoughts on that, Ben? And I'm sure you have a few.
Oh, right. Well, where do I begin?
Where do you begin? Is it should we begin with the Tavistock Institute or?
Well, yeah, Ben, you're big on the old secret societies, and the Tavistock's kind of related to secret societies and media, isn't
What we're talking about is is the way we think affected through the newspapers, the television, the magazines?
Yeah.
Are we subconsciously programmed?
Yeah, and by who?
And by whom?
To what end?
And to what
end?
In
a word, yes. And we are subconsciously programmed. By whom? And there's the active organisations that get involved in doing this programming. Or as you said, there's organisations like the Tavistock Institute. There's several organisations. There's the Rand Corporation, the Brookings Institute, Frankfurt School. There's a whole array of these who tend to come out with the same things. Now, the Tavistock Institute, I'm particularly interested in because I used to know a lady who was one of the founders of the Tavistock Institute.
Shall we explain what the Tavistock Institute is?
Go on.
Because we won't assume that people know any of this. So can you give a brief summary of the Tavistock Institute, Ben?
Right. Well, if you go to the Tavistock Institute literature and website, there's a description of what they are. It's pretty much incomprehensible, actually. It's I can find it and read it out to you if you want. I mean, it's but it's
it's information, but not but a lot of information, and a lot of information that doesn't say very much.
Well, it uses words like team building, human relations.
Oh God,
generic.
Sounds like one of my old jobs.
Here we go. It applies social science to contemporary issues and problems, engaged with evaluation and action research, organisational development and change consultancy, executive coaching and professional development in all services of supporting sustainable change and ongoing learning. Now, repeat that back to me.
Oh dear, that actually sounds like one of my old jobs, change consultancy. I used to do that, and people used to ask me questions. I'd send them a lot of rubbish back, and they'd agree.
What are they saying they are? Are they saying they're some kind of a media organisation, or does it say
on their website, which I'm looking at now? It's basically it's an organisation which, I mean, it's like I said, whenever you see a mission statement like that, which makes no sense, you should alarm should ring in your mind.
Exactly.
The Tavistock Institute, it actually what it does is it brings psychology into. It basically employs psychologists to go and work as consultants for governments, media, various other organisations like that. Now, psychology is the term psychology covers a multitude of sins. It could, and I think as if you look at things such as the literature on media manipulation and mind control, you'll see that actually psychology has been used as a terrible weapon against us.
Oh yeah.
So, I think most people in the world are familiar with Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
He was basically the founder of psychoanalysis, but a far more influential individual who's much less famous is his nephew, a man called Edward Albanese.
Yep.
Yes.
He lived in America, but he was Freud's nephew. Now, he founded what's been known as public relations. Now, it's a term we use all the time today, but public relations is actually was a term he invented. Now, what he did was he at the time, adverts were very, very sort of like simplistic things. They would show you a tube of toothpaste, for instance, and say, "This is our tube of toothpaste. It's made by Colgate. It cleans your teeth better than anyone else." And that's what advertisements were like. They were basically honest. They were simple. They were making claims that treated potential customers as rational beings. They could basically say to you, "Look, you should buy our project because it's better than these other ones, and this is why." Simple as that.
Yeah.
Bernays came along and that all changed. And Bernays changed that. What he did was he used psychology to create advertisements which actually tapped into our subconscious desires and various other things. And this still goes on in advertisement today. I mean, he started to work about 100 years ago, but basically it's still going on today. I mean, you see it in adverts today. You have sorry.
Ben, he actually invented the term public relations to replace post-World War II the word propaganda.
Oh, well, because public relations is just a sort of Orwellian kind of double think.
Yeah. Apparently, from what I think I heard on one of the documentaries about Bernays, it was to do with replacing the word propaganda because it had got a bad rap during the war.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. I mean, it's again when something becomes unpopular, they just rebrand it with a different name. Like when carbon dioxide. It's been rebranded as carbon. And there's lots of other examples, I can think of. But Bernays is behind sort of things like if you watch sort of car adverts, they tend to be almost kind of psychosexual.
Yeah.
In their own. The man behind the seat is this kind of like James Bond character, and usually there's some pretty girl beside him. Various things like that, and sometimes it becomes far more sinister and far deeper when they include sort of subliminal messages in adverts, both in the soundtrack and in the visual side of things. Like you have strange, you find images encoded in these adverts that look like, for instance, there's people having sex and things like that. And of course, Bernays worked for governments as well.
Oh, he did.
I mean, he was always busy. Bernays worked very hard, and
I think he worked for Roosevelt, didn't he?
Yes, he actually helped with Roosevelt with the New Deal and everything in a sort of post-stock market crash era. He helped Roosevelt form. The New Deal, just the term itself, you can see it stinks of this kind of public relations.
The Tories in England had a New Deal in the 80s, didn't they? If I remember correctly, or was that Labour in the 90s? I can't remember which. But it has been reinvented a few times.
How could you tell?
Yeah, well, I'll spot the difference.
Sorry, Mark. Yeah, they use other terms like there's the Citizens' Charter and Back to Basics.
Oh, that's been used. John Major used Back to Basics.
Yeah, I mean, and that actually seems to be. I reckon that's exactly the same thing. And Tavistock Institute was probably involved with that. I mean,
see, Ben, when we're talking about people listening in, we're talking about Bernays and we're talking about the Tavistock, and they think we're talking about advertising to sell a product.
Yeah.
Yes, that is.
It's part of it.
That's part of it, and it's a big part of it. But this kind of.
It's a dark art.
This kind of psychology can have other purposes, which you may not be aware of.
It's kind of like turning to the dark side of psychology. If you've seen any Derren Brown show and you've realised that he's managed to manipulate the entire audience, imagine what you could do with that if you worked in advertising.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and Darren Brown is just—he's basically an amateur. He's self-taught.
Yeah, he is.
As opposed to these organisations. I mean, Neil Sanders has said a lot about this. He's actually just coming out with a book about this. He talks about MK Ultra, which is where, which is basically in the post-war era, the United States used drugs, hypnosis, various other techniques to basically turn people, into robots who would obey commands. I mean, this is the theme of the film The Manchurian Candidate. In the book, there was a book by a guy called Richard Condon, which was made into a film, which, oddly enough, it was released in just before the Kennedy assassination in it was released in 1962, that's it, and then it was re-released, it was planned to be re-released, I think, in November 1963. Then the Kennedy assassination happened, and for some reason, the Manchurian Candidate was withheld from release, probably because it was maybe a little bit too close to the truth.
Yeah.
And this film is, I mean, in the film, it's actually Korean communists who actually program the American. It's an American prisoner of war to become an assassin in the United States. Now that actually did happen. I mean, the Koreans in Korean War, the communists actually did use American prisoners of war for experiments. And after the war, when these prisoners were returned to the United States, it was obvious that they had been brainwashed. That's where the term brainwashed first originated. Now, so it's obviously on the other side of the Iron Curtain in the Cold War, they were doing exactly the same thing, and if anything, they were even more advanced.
Correct.
But I mean, United States, I think, soon caught up.
I think they've caught up now, and maybe in the entire West, because I've been watching some videos recently with a KGB agent who worked in communist Russia, and one of the ways that he explains they control people was through poverty and desperation. When you're poor, when you're hungry,
you'll do what you're told.
You'll do what you're told.
Sounds familiar.
He called it generational demoralization. It takes about 10 years in the life of a young adult.
What an Orwellian term that is, general demoralization. But that is actually certainly going on in this country. I mean, we've seen people who are doing things now who they would consider probably immoral and unthinkable maybe a few years earlier because of the recession, maybe backbiting and work and things like that. They would do things now out of fear of losing their jobs and losing their incomes and things like that in a time when they have mortgages to pay and bills to pay and things like that. Well, how are we going to survive? And unfortunately, they do take. This has been set up in this sense. I think society's been engineered this way, so we're always on this razor's edge between. And we only stay balanced by serving the system.
Exactly. I mean, we're so busy trying to survive. What they hope is you're not going to take an interest in politics or voting or global affairs.
Too busy surviving.
Too busy trying to heat the home and clothe yourself.
Exactly. Yeah,
so back to the Tavistock Institute, which I know that you visited. Because I've seen your YouTube video.
I made a video where I actually went there, and I was actually... it could have been better, I think. Because I mean, when the door was open, I could have gone in there for a start. I feel a bit ashamed actually, because I must admit, I actually did bottle it.
Yeah, you were actually physically shaken when you visited there, weren't you?
I actually felt physically ill in the presence of that building, and it may be because of the relationship I had with a woman. This woman, I used to know a woman who has passed away now. I used to know a woman called Isabel Menzies Lythe. She was one of the founders of the Tavistock Clinic, which became the Tavistock Institute, and she was one of the most intimidating and upsetting individuals I've ever known in my life. I know you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but she was a very, very unpleasant and manipulative old woman. She was a friend of my mum's. In fact, when my mum did a psychology course, my mum actually did a psychology degree as a mature student, and she latched onto this woman. And this woman seemed to have some kind of hold over my mum, some kind of psychology over my mum. And she used to play. So when I was a kid, this woman Isabel used to play kind of mind games with me as well when I was a kid. And I think that might have been part of what the malaise I felt when I was in the presence of the Tavistock Institute. May have been connected with my memories of this when I was a child.
Did this lady work in the Tavistock?
Yeah, she was one of the founders of the Tavistock Institute in the 40s. She was very old. In fact, she died in 2007 at the age of about 90-something. But she worked with other people, like there's a guy called Wilfred, somebody. Oh, she. There's an interview with her online where she sounds very nice and sweet, and she talks sweet. But I mean, she is a trained psychological manipulator, and she was psychologically manipulative. She used niceness and aggression in ways when I look back now and I realise what I do now. What she was doing to me when I was a child was using kind of niceness and aggression in a very sort of like crafty way.
Yeah, like neuro-linguistic programming, which is the watered down version of MK Ultra.
Exactly. I mean, they know what they're doing. These people. They don't. I mean, I say she's a trained mind controller, and I said I did. You know, later on when I said to my dad and my mum, I said I didn't tell my mum because my mum died as well, but I told my dad, this woman is a trained mind controller, and they didn't. They just laugh at me now. They think I'm crazy, but she was.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I look back at the way she treated me, I mean, the thing is, they know what they're doing. They can't just be, if they want to control people, they can't just sort of go in there and do it very bluntly. You have to do it very subtly. Because the human mind will react against, say, excessive force. Humans will react against excessive force. They'll react against. What they'll do is they will if you use excessive force 1 minute and play the good cop the next. That's a good way of actually. You can tease out the golden eggs from anyone.
So you're making a very good point here, Ben, because you're talking about an individual. But when you think about our media and our newspapers. You could sum up the front page, the second page, and every other page with one word: fear.
Yes, it's fear. And this is Neil Sanders has talked about this as well. They put you'll have a massive news story about some event in the world which is designed to induce fear, either real or imagined. It could be a real disaster that's happened, an earthquake, an economic crash, a terrorist attack, or something imagined like some pandemic that never occurs, like swine flu, which is completely contrived.
Yeah.
But then on the next, you'll have next to that, you'll have like adverts for things which are kind of like self-indulgent.
Yes.
And you turn over the page, and sometimes there's a naked woman.
Yes.
Which causes sexual arousal. And things like that. And this is what you get from the Sun if you look over. I mean, there's a good reason why the tits are on page 3.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing you see when you turn over the front page.
Yep.
It's no coincidence to put it on page 3.
Ben, you were talking about the subtlety of it there, and I don't know if you would agree, but I'm I'm greatly in favour of the opinion that soap operas are neuro-linguistic programming and putting ideas out there, spreading fear, the usual complete NLP psycho warfare tool. Would you think that do you watch the soaps? I watch them because I like to find out what I'm supposed to be thinking.
Yeah, I watch it as much as I watch EastEnders in particular.
EastEnders is the main one, yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't escape it because people watch it at my home. I mean, it's on the TV when I'm there. I mean, luckily, I seem to have a knack of sort of like being there, or maybe I'm having sort of like guidance from higher powers, I don't know, but I seem to have the knack of being in just the right place, watching just the right episode when something significant comes on.
Yeah.
The EastEnders have actually spoken about an awful lot about how it is actually being used to promote a particular mindset in people.
Yeah. They have themes as well, I've noticed. Currently, they have themes. Like currently, they're on the theme that money's not so important. It's okay to be poor, and let's just all make do with nothing.
Oh, that's the Blitz mentality, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, they tend to say things like you'll have a particular characters in there that play particular roles in recurring story plot lines, which recur again and again and again in different situations with different characters. Now the situation is you'll get like a particular kind of man who's very, very harsh and cruel and acquisitive and brutal, very materialistic, and he is portrayed as extremely successful. He's one of the kind of alpha males.
Yes.
They tend to be the kind of alpha males of the cast. And they tend to, but I mean, they are extremely. They're always very rich. They always win any of the various conflicts they get involved in. Women can't resist them. They always have a big fast car. You get other characters that are very often in the same plot lines who are completely different. They tend to be very sort of like sensitive and kind kind of males.
Victims.
They're very respectful, very, very
losers,
quite emotional kind of characters who who they often fall in love with one of the female characters, and the female characters are not interested in them. They always go for what I call the CMI, the conformist male ideal, which is the alpha male I was just describing.
Yes.
And there's usually a kind of very one-sided love triangle between the CMI and the other person, which is the sort of nice guy type character. The nice guy type character is also he's often not financially successful. He tends to do so-called low status jobs, like roads. One of them was a road sweeper. Another guy sort of just sold food. And another woman kind of ran a vegetable stall on his market. Things like that. They're not rich, and they're not materialistic. They tend to be sort of like more keen on relationships with other people. So you get this very one-sided love triangle in which the alpha male always wins, and the message going out is, be like him if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
Don't be like the kind guy.
Yes.
And the nice.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it kind of promoting the idea that the ideal man is the very, very brutal, very cruel, very selfish and materialistic individual who cares nothing for anyone other than his own gain. And they say, if you do that, you'll get everything you want.
And another thing I've noticed in the program, Ben, is the effect probably on young women who would be watching it. They're very much the drama queen, and
just about to say the same question.
You can probably put it better than me, Mark.
There's a female stereotype that they're projecting as well. The whole hysterical, fly off the handle, did you spill my pint type of mentality.
Oh, and arguments among the family. The family is never a unit.
Yeah.
In this program,
it's a war zone.
It's a war zone.
I will say they teach promoting the kind of like. I mean, you see this with with real people in reality TV shows like Jade. Do you remember Jade Goody? They're very sort of like they say the woman who gets into very, very petty, bitchy arguments with others all the time.
Yeah.
And whose entire life consists of either trying to shag one of the alpha males, at the same time getting into stupid little fights with other women over trivial issues.
One thing I have noticed, Ben, on the British soaps, we were talking about British soap operas here, in case anybody's around the world. There are three, really, to speak of. There's EastEnders, which is the state-sponsored BBC entity. There's Coronation Street, which is the independent-ish ITV production. And then there's Emmerdale, which is not as popular, I don't think, which is sort of a farming scenario type thing. EastEnders is set in London. Coronation Street is set in the grim north, where people have less money and it's less affluent. But one thing I've noticed in Coronation Street particularly, and EastEnders with a difference thing is, in Coronation Street, it's almost every episode and almost every scene in every episode where booze is seen as the answer to all your problems. They'll say, yes, I've just found out I've got a dreaded lurgy cancer, and they'll go, here, have some booze, and I'm not going out tonight, have some booze. I think I'm having a bad day, have some booze, And EastEnders is the same, but with chips. Every meal in EastEnders involves chips.
Yeah, it's
that's not an accident, surely.
Yeah. I doubt if it is. I mean, I don't think anything's an accident in these various productions. I mean, I actually don't watch Coronation Street or EastEnders or Emmerdale, I'm afraid.
I don't watch Emmerdale because its theme is shouting. I worked out a while ago, in my opinion, that they've got three themes. Emmerdale is shouting, Coronation Street is deceit, and EastEnders is depressing.
Oh, yes. I mean, EastEnders manages to combine those other two as well in smaller quantities.
To a degree, yeah.
It is essentially depressing. I mean, EastEnders there's no doubt about it. It is designed to demoralise
completely.
I mean, in everyone. Yeah. I mean, it's especially if you are one of the sort of like the characters they're discouraging you from being. It's designed to demoralise, and it's very extremely melancholy.
Oh, very much. Yeah.
So I mean, even the alpha males get they get their fair share of strife and sort of tribulation, and so yeah, definitely.
Who benefits from that?
Well, anyone who I think has a vested interest in humans behaving in a certain way and being very, very despondent and demoralised and suffering from future shock. In other words, if various unpleasant sort of predictions keep coming at you from all angles in all different ways, it's quite possible that some people are going to just throw their hands up and just quit on altogether.
Yeah, they'll be saying, I don't want to know. I don't want to know about anything. Just leave me be. I don't want to know about it.
Sounds like you.
Do you really believe that that's what...
No, that's not me. That's not me, Mark.
If you really actually believe that's our lot in life, then you'll go and you'll become what they want you to be. Though you'll become a slave in a factory. You'll become a soldier on the front line. You'll become what they want you to be, because you think, well, I'm not really deserving anything better. And what better do I deserve? What more is there to life? There is nothing more to life.
So exactly. I mean, this is what we're saying. As I discussed earlier, we had the KGB and their methods in communist Russia, and now we're here in the West, and we're actually physically, financially impoverished, and we're mentally and intellectually impoverished through the television.
Very much so. I mean, all of our popular media, which about 80% of what is broadcast and published, is designed at the level of a secondary school child.
Exactly.
Not designed. There's nothing. It has an intellectual value of virtually zero. It is junk food for thought, and that is actually a quote from a document called "Silent Weapons for a Quiet War," which could well have been written by any of these mind controllers we just discussed. Bernays, the Korean communists, the other guys who talk about generational
demoralization.
Yeah, that catchphrase. It could have been. It's a document that could have been written by any of these people. And it's all designed to turn humanity into a browbeaten, emotionally weak, intellectually retarded.
Yes.
Farm animals, basically.
Yeah. Sound like slaves.
Yeah, by this new globalist state that's coming out.
So what we're theorizing about is with the Tavistock Institute is that they have these psychoanalysts and psychiatrists, and they're advising companies like the BBC who make all these programs.
I assume they do governments as well.
And governments and newspapers.
They'll tell them how to get their message delivered.
Yeah, they are, and they have a list. There's a list of their clients on their website, and it's. No, I mean, obviously there's always going to be, I mean, it's only a very short thing here, but they say they work with private, public and not-for-profit sectors at local, national and international level. Well, Common Purpose say the same thing. I mean,
I'm glad you mentioned them.
Yeah, it's often quite hard to actually find out the kind of work they're actually involved in. I mean, I managed to track down the local Oxford branch of Common Purpose.
Ben, I know what kind of work they're involved in. Common Purpose has a representative on every county council, every hospital board.
Police force.
Probably
in the hospitals as well. They're everywhere. Media.
They're everywhere. You will find one person connected with Common Purpose in every public body. And if you're wondering how a conspiracy could become effective, that's one very good way, is to have an agent on every level.
They're an interesting thing out there. Like
and again, Ben, as you're saying with the Tavistock Institute, if you go to the Common Purpose website, you'll find out very, very little about what they actually do.
Very vague remit.
Yeah. They say pretty much very similar to what the Tavistock Institute says. They have a very nebulous and very, very sort of Byzantine kind of mission statement, which doesn't make any sense at all. And that is a big red flag. If you see something like that, you want to look deeper. But I mean, there's some very, very dedicated individuals who do, like Brian Gerrish and the people who run the Common Purpose Exposed website, the UK column, and people like that, who have actually identified, through hard work, they've identified exactly who in the various institutions in Britain has done what course. And as you said, if you go to these sites and you Google, they have a list of basically every single county and almost every single city within those counties. Yes. And you find at least one graduate in all these institutions. I mean, there's about 5 at my old hospital.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, they're not. Yeah, there's about 5 of them.
From Common Purpose, Ben?
Yes. In my hospital, there's a whole lot. Some of them, there's a couple of doctors, and there's others that are in admin.
Yeah. And see, the problem with this is, what the bloody hell is Common Purpose?
I mean, look at the woman who runs it. There are numerous videos you can look up of her. Is it Silversmith or Shearsmith? Is that her name?
Something like that.
Julia Middleton.
Yeah, that's her.
Julia
Yeah,
Middleton.
I mean, she's been using all sorts of NLP techniques and all sorts in her little training videos. You can look them up.
I think we'll have to be rather careful about mentioning the name and the name Common Purpose, because I do know you've mentioned Brian Gerrish, ex-Navy commander. He's had his run-ins, and I think he's not even able to mention the name in any shape or form now.
Really, he used to do talks on the subject.
Right?
Isn't that right, Ben?
I mean, I suppose we could just say, I mean, the organisation is, I mean, if you go to them and you ask them what they're about, or you look at their literature, you can't work it out. But I mean, basically, this organisation we're talking about, I mean, if you want to edit out the words I actually...
Oh, no, we'll use it.
Ben, we're okay. We're broadcasting from the Republic of Ireland. We can say what the hell we like about a British institution.
Well, that's all right. I'll take the rap for you then, because I'm right here in Nottingham. I don't mind. I'm not scared. I'll tell them. I mean, if you actually want to know what they are, I mean, I managed to track down. They are an organisation which runs rather like the Tavistock Institute that has uses psychologists to psychology to put people in particular places, which allows them to control a vast amount of institutions and organisations and governments from a very small and very subtle kind of injection of power
from grassroots level.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny thing is, like, I found out where I've made a video about this. I haven't uploaded it yet, I don't think, but I've made a video about Common Purpose, the Oxfordshire headquarters of Common Purpose, which is in a very, very sort of, it's actually buried within another organisation which owns like a building in a little remote village.
Oh, how odd!
What are they hiding?
Sorry?
What are they hiding?
Exactly. It's kind of like Area 51. I mean, because Area 51 is a very, very secluded area inside the Nellis Air Force Range, which is itself in a remote area in the Nevada. It's actually one of the most isolated places in the world. Now, Common Purpose, it seems, is doing the same. They've set up a headquarters inside a building which is owned by another institution, which is in a remote village, a long way from Oxford.
Middle of bloody nowhere.
Yeah, why would you? It seems a strange place for a business. Which is sort of like in the sort of like social sector.
No offence, Ben, but what kind of global or national organisation has their headquarters in Oxford at all? They're almost all in London.
Well, the thing about Oxford is so international in terms of the fact that the students. I mean, this is where the leaders of the next generation of the New World Order are groomed. Yeah. I mean, if you want to know who's going to be whichever country you're in the world, you want to know who your next Prime Minister or President is going to be. Take a walk through the streets of London with a student, of Oxford. Take a walk down Broad Street or St Giles, and the students are milling around. You'll see them. You'll bump into them.
It used to be called when I was a child the Old Boy Network.
Yes.
Yeah. Now it's the New Boy Network.
Yeah.
The actual individuals are often identified at a very early age as being psychologically, and in terms of their upbringing, about who their parents are as well, because it's very often it's a family thing, it's a bloodline thing.
Like David Cameron and Tony Blair, they've never had a proper job in their lives. They're both bred for position.
No.
Absolutely.
Tony Blair's career was accelerated so enormously quickly. There were many people who've been MPs in the Parliament in his party and in other parties. Yeah. Have been there much longer. For some reason, they haven't got where he went.
No, it's strange that.
He got very, very high levels of government as a very young age.
He was, 42 when he became Prime Minister, youngest ever?
He was pretty young. I remember, and he went to New College, and I bet you anything that he was probably, the decision may have been made when he was in his first year at New College, that this guy Prime Minister one day.
Well, we've got you on, Ben, and we're talking about random subjects because we're going all over. Tony Blair, remember when he was in charge of the British Empire? Most of the cabinet was Scottish, and I know Tony Blair was also Scottish. That wasn't commonly known, but what was that all about? Because there was a disproportionate amount of Scottish people running the UK government.
That is very unusual. I mean, I really don't know why that is.
Yeah, I mean, Alistair Campbell, #1 spin doctor, Scottish. Robin Cook, Scottish. Oh, the list was endless.
Gordon Brown went on to become Prime Minister.
Gordon Brown, obviously, Chancellor, yeah.
I mean, it's funny because Neil Kinnock was a Welsh sort of like head of the opposition back in the 80s when he went up against Major. And I mean, I don't know if there's lots of Welsh people in his cabinet. I can't remember. I mean, I don't
think there was, actually. I don't think there was any.
No, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if that's significant.
I don't think it's nepotism. I'm just wondering whether or not there are any ancestral links that link them together. Perhaps the House of Stuart, for example.
I mean, there's a lot of our British aristocracy sort of has its origins in Scotland. And also, I mean, there's the fact now that Scotland is playing an important role now in the EU agenda, because Scotland, it looks like it may well go independent from the UK.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a Welsh boy, and I'm like, in an earlier incarnation when I was a kid, I mean, I was quite a rabid nationalist. And of course, the Welsh nationalists are supporting the Scots nationalists in their independence. But I mean, I think we're being fooled here. We've been played a very, very crafty trick being played on us, because although I'm not a British nationalist, I'm not a nationalist of any kind, but at least at the moment the United Kingdom is kind of a bit of a lump that the EU is finding hard to swallow.
Yeah.
So when you have a lump that's too big to swallow, if you've got a meal on a plate, you tend to spit it out and cut it into smaller pieces.
Break it up.
And then it goes a lot easier. Now, if Scotland became independent, it may well become a fully fledged EU state.
Yeah.
In which case, there'd be just England and Wales left, and if Wales may say, well, if you give the Scots their independence, give it to us. We want our own country as well. Don't understand.
Oh, your great spotted oath.
Oh, they understand it. It's freedom. It's tyranny dressed up as freedom.
Well, you've mentioned Tony Blair and the rise of Tony Blair. There is another factor, and something we wanted to talk to address today was secret societies.
Ah, yes.
And it's something that has affected us recently in the Republic of Ireland, a particular thing called the Bilderberg Group.
Also, Tony Blair was the head of, in fact, a secret society.
And Tony Blair was, an attendee at the Bilderberg shortly, I think, before he became Prime Minister.
Bit of a pattern there.
All your Taoiseachs were also attendees.
Actually, Ben, and that's a very good point, because we've just had another vote here on Friday, and to sum up what it was, really, it was to ensconce us further into debt and the EU.
Yeah.
And we voted yes.
Apparently.
Oh.
And on that very day of voting, Ben, one of the top ministers...
The finance minister, in fact.
The finance minister, Minister Noonan, was attending Bilderberg.
And guess who he went with? The head of Goldman Sachs in Ireland. His boss, probably.
What do you think of that, Ben?
Well, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall during their conversation. That's all right.
There was no conversation. It mostly involves sweat and bending over, I think.
Well, actually, Ben, now I've chatted with Mark about this morning, and as I am in the Republic, I think it's now my duty to email Minister Noonan, and as a voter and a taxpayer, to ask him exactly what was discussed at Bilderberg, and could I have the minutes?
He was on the clock.
As he was on the clock, and I've paid for it. I want to know. I think that's my responsibility to find out.
Yes.
Exactly. I mean, this whole Bilderberg thing is just so incredible, because I mean, they only actually they used to be a completely black organisation. They've gone kind of dark grey in recent years, thanks to the very, very dedicated efforts of people like Daniel Esterlin and Jim Tucker and people like that.
They've even got their own website now.
Sorry?
They've even got their own website now.
They have a website.
Yeah, they have a very, very simple and small website. I know this because I went to.
And I think there's a pattern emerging here, Ben, because it says very little.
Yes, we strive to have a better planet and work through synergy with other people and their connections. It's like, what?
If only.
It's exactly like common purpose, exactly like Tavistock. And the thing is, the Bilderberg Group's not new. It actually was founded in 1954.
Yeah.
At the Bilderberg Hotel in Oosterbeek in the Netherlands. Now that's why it got its name. But I mean, I think its website, its official website, was launched in 2008. And it's only about 6 pages. I've had a look at it. I went to have a look around Ditchley Park, which is near Oxford, which is another of these organisations. It's a grey organisation, though. It's not a black organisation. It has an quite elaborate official website. It does produce published documents. Although the minutes of the meetings are secret, it produces a documented report every time it has a meeting. But I mean, I compared the Ditchley Park video, the Ditchley Park website, which Ditchley Park's almost as old as Bilderberg, but it has a very, very it has a sort of like a public face, whereas Bilderberg had no public face at all, and now it has a minimal public face. But basically, all the major people, all the major heads of state, all the people you see, presidents, prime ministers, they all have been involved with this organisation.
Oh yeah.
And Blair actually was involved with the organisation long before I think he got into the cabinet. And I think the same goes for Bill Clinton. I mean, he was quite a minor. These people were quite minor political figures until they went to Bilderberg, and then they became famous afterwards, and then they got elected.
You have to wonder if there's a causality there.
Yeah, if there's any backbench MP who attended this time,
yes.
Watch
that's
them.
your Prime Minister in 5 years.
Yep.
And Ben, you're making a very good point there, because I don't know if people realise the Bilderberg meeting is a meeting of 200. Well, could you say
industrialists and politicians?
Industrialists, politicians, CEOs,
influential people, basically.
Most influential people, and this is a meeting that has been denied.
Oh, yeah.
Denied.
Yeah, they said it didn't even exist until recently.
Up until, as you say, probably 2008, a few years ago, when it kept...
What meeting?
What meeting?
This is what Lord Healy said, because
Dennis Healy.
Now, didn't he start it?
He was one of the founders.
Isn't he the kingpin?
Yeah. Along with a guy called Prince Bernhard, who's actually the Prince Consort of Queen Juliana of the Netherlands, who's the Queen Mother now in Holland. Prince Bernhard was a sort of German collaborator with the Nazis, and he and Dennis Healy sort of set the whole thing up. Now, Dennis Healy, of course, went on to become one of the most powerful men in Britain for a very, very long period of time, over several successive governments. He was never Prime Minister, but he was obviously a guy behind the scenes, pulling the strings of Jim McCallaghan, Harold Wilson, people like that. And he's now Lord Healy, and he never ever mentioned once, I think. I don't think anyone knew about it or even asked him, and I know that Jim Tucker has phoned him up and sent him letters saying, "Healy, tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on." Healy hasn't replied. It's only now recently he has actually admitted, he said, well, yes, there was a organisation which I was a part of and I attended every year, and that's all he's basically said.
It's all documented in a book called Them by John Ronson, and John Ronson in this book poses the question: is the world run by a tiny group of people from a room, a secret government? And it sounded ludicrous when I read it at the time, and my goodness, over the years I've discovered
there is a bit of a coincidence that people who go there seem to do rather well.
And
exactly. They do. And the book then by John Ronson actually is it's not a bad book to sort of like introduce you to these subjects, but I don't think he gets to grips with the whole issue at all.
He
makes a joke out of it.
He tries to make light of it, and you read the book and you kind of think nothing of it. It has that effect, and he's in denial since.
Yes, John Ronson is. I mean, either I'm not saying he's deliberately lying, but he is definitely, his work is definitely covering over. He's definitely making a mockery about a lot of what's going on. I mean, he's even more recently with that film, The Men Who Stare at Goats, which is based on his not quite good book, actually.
It's okay. I've read it.
Yeah, it's completely. It creates an idea that this is some kind of jokey kind of curiosity. You know, it's a fun thing to put on after the main news. When in fact, it's extremely serious. I mean, in the book and in the TV series of Company, Ronson makes a joke out of people like David Icke, Alex Jones. The David Icke one is appalling. His coverage of David Icke is really terrible. Alex Jones is portrayed as this rather lovable but very eccentric kind of American loony.
Exactly.
When in fact, I think Alex Jones is raising extremely serious issues here, which I think everyone in the world has a vested interest in looking at.
Exactly, Ben. Like ourselves, like also you on your new show.
Plug.
I'm now a radio broadcaster myself.
Oh, yes.
It's part of the Critical Mass Network, a critical mass radio station run by Paul Futurestar. He's done several radio shows on several different stations. This is his own station, on which there's about a dozen different hosts who come in and do sort of like shows, either pre-recorded or live. And it's called Hapanmo Radio. There's all on the Hapanmo blog. I've got an entire blog now. It's part of the Hapanmo network, devoted to the Hapanmo radio site. Any news goes straight on there, and you'll get links to the recorded show. I've only done one recorded show so far, but I'm going to do, hopefully in the next week or two, I'm going to do another show, a live show.
Tony Blair was
I'm not going to be you guys, though. I mean, that's not...
Hey, Ben, we're all in it together.
Exactly, yeah.
And Tony Blair was in the Fabian Society, wasn't he? I think that's another one of your favourites.
Yeah.
So you broke up slightly. Did you say Fabian Society?
Yeah, Tony Blair, he was in the Fabian Society. Before you tell anybody about what the Fabian Society do, please describe their logo. That alone should make people sit up and listen.
Right, well, there's two logos they use, which is just both very revealing. One is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Seriously, you may as well use a picture of somebody stabbing a baby in the neck or something for your logo and sell coffee. It's insane.
Yeah, it's just so obvious. I mean, maybe they're having a laugh that people can't see it or they don't realise.
That's like the RSPCA having a logo of somebody kicking a dog.
It's exactly. It's sort of putting a fox in charge of their hen house.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's another angle. Is you get two blacksmiths with an anvil and they're hammering something, and it turns out to be the planet Earth. It's an image of the planet Earth. So they're hammering the planet Earth into the sheep.
Okay, you're mentioning Tony Blair.
Yeah.
There's another famous member of the Tavistock Institute going back quite a few years.
Ooh.
I know this bores the pants off of Mark, but I'm going to mention it anyway. The famous playwright George Bernard Shaw. Are you familiar with him, Ben?
Famous player.
Yeah, I know Shaw. Yeah, was he in Tavistock?
He was in Tavistock, I believe, and I'm just going to give a little quote from.
Tavistock was founded in 1940, I think.
Oh, so he wasn't.
Loser.
I know he's one of the great Irish playwrights. I know, but the Fabian Society was founded in 1884, which is the
Fabian Society, Ben.
Aha.
Yes, the Fabian Society.
Yeah, it was founded in 1884.
Not the Tavistock.
George Bernard Shaw, I think, was a member of the Fabian Society.
Aha.
Fabian, maybe he was. I don't know, but maybe that's more like. I know that. The centenary of the founding of the Fabian Society was 1984, so because the Fabian Society was founded in 1884. Now, 1984, coincidentally perhaps, is when George Orwell, who I think was also involved with them, chose to...
Yes, he was.
Now, I mean, the Fabian Society, I mean, I'll tell you what comes from the Fabian Society. It also comes from things like the Frankfurt School, like Tavistock, is where you get political correctness. And that is when... It's happening. I think we're all affected by this. It's when you may say something that is completely sort of benign. For instance, you might go into a cafe and ask for a black coffee.
Yeah.
Or
Baba, Black Sheep, for example.
Yeah, or we'll sing that song, Baba. Or you're a boss. Say you're a boss of a firm, and you very, very honestly, and you're a very, very good boss, and you look after. You're very, very honest in your dealings with your employees, and you create a team of all your best employees to do something.
Yeah.
Using their merits alone, and you suddenly realise they're all white.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should put just one black guy in there, drop one of the good, the white men, even though he's better, put a black guy. Just because it might be racist otherwise. Now, the thing about racism, I don't think you can be I personally think, racism, like any other form of human violence, you don't do it like that way. It's not something you do unintentionally. But I mean, they've made it. What the Fabian Society, they've created it into an issue, and all the other isms in our society, where everyone is constantly censoring each other and censoring our own thoughts. So we're thinking all the time: is what I'm saying right?
Yes.
Should I be thinking this? Or you're watching a film that was made like a carry-on film, something, and you might see something in it that's completely benign. Because these films are, I think, the carry-on films, for instance, are just very, very funny, and they're very, it's good, innocent fun, I think.
Yeah.
But you might look at something and think, oh, that's racist, or it's sexist, or it's something else-ist.
Yeah.
And you think, maybe I shouldn't be watching this. Am I a thought criminal, to use Orwell's own term, to watch? And that's where the Frankfurt and the Frankfurt School as well, but the Fabian Society.
And the Fabian Society. Well, I was just mentioning Shaw, Ben, because some of the only surviving footage of George Bernard Shaw he's quoted, so we know it's true, and we have to remember that he was a member of the Fabian Society. He's saying justify yourself, and he goes along with this quote about how the world should be run, and if you're not contributing to society, or you're perhaps mentally retarded or disabled, you should be gassed humanely. So this is
so in other words, a useless eater.
So this is the kind of mentality of the people running these kind of institutions.
Yep. And this is the term useless eater was actually coined by Henry Kissinger.
Yeah.
Who's enough said about it. I mean,
he seems to have got a seat on every one of those little secret institutions.
And of course, it was put into practice very much by the Nazi regime in Germany, where they actually did this.
One thing about political correctness, though, Ben, is that it's basically a very easy way of suppressing freedom of speech. I mean, for example, if you got mugged every week by somebody from, let's pick an obscure country, Bhutan, eventually you're going to come to the opinion that, you know, those Bhutanese people keep mugging me, maybe they're all bad. And to say that out loud would make common sense if it kept happening to you. But now you're not allowed to say that because, oh no, that's racist against Bhutanese people. You know, it's just insane. It suppresses your freedom of speech, and to the point where now it's got to the point where you can't ask people what way they vote or discuss politics and that kind of thing.
And that's the danger.
Then what you see, it restricts the freedom and flow of ideas.
Well, I mean, I know people who walk into a room. If there is a black or a disabled person or someone there, they will be almost tiptoeing.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I actually think, you know, I actually say to people, you know, go and ask black people about this. Go and ask homosexual people about this. Go and ask disabled people. I have done that. I've spoken to black people. I've spoken to Asians and Muslims and homosexuals about this issue. And I was I tell you, do it, because these people turn to me and they, almost to a man, they said to me, I hate this stuff. It's so patronising.
Yeah.
I hate people treating me like this. I don't want to be called coloured. I'm black. I don't want to be you know, I don't want to be. I want to be just treated normally. I don't want people hesitating to make a joke in front of me in case they think it's going to offend me.
It's insane.
I'm almost around people have said that. I mean, I'm black, so they're not offended by it. I mean, you know, all the ones I spoke to are not offended by it.
No, we try and completely ignore the whole PC thing. I mean, a couple of weeks ago on one of our after-hours shows, much to Basil's cringing dismay, I had top 10 Jews.
Yes.
I did bottom 5 Jews, of which Henry Kissinger was number 1. But I thought, well, next week I'll make up for it. So I said the next week I'll have top 10 Jews. And Basil was like, that's really edgy. It was, you could tell that he'd got the face. He'd got the PC face.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I tell you, I mean, there's some great Jews out there. There's Noam Chomsky and Norman Finkelstein. And I mean, this is the thing. I mean, one of the anti-Semitic line. I mean, unfortunately, John Ronson, promoted all this. But the whole anti-Semitic line is anyone who talks about a conspiracy, well, they mean Jews. And if you say it's not Jews,
like David Icke with the lizard people.
You think they're Jews.
That was wrapping you up very quickly when you were trying to talk about things about who controls the world by making you an anti-Jew. It was that's a great example of a system of control, and with David Icke, they had accused him of saying that the lizards or the reptilians he was talking about, he was actually alluding to Jewish people.
Right. Well, he's absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, I'd say. See, when I've studied David Icke, I think I've read everything David Icke's ever written. He's not referring to Jews at all. He's referring to them as these reptilians. Now, I mean. Unfortunately, the answer you get from that is from the protesters, the people who protest against these things, who are controlled by things like the Fabian Society. Well, you're only saying they're not Jews because you think they're Jews. It's rather like that line in the Life of Brian, that Monty Python film, where
he's not the Messiah.
He's trying to deny he's the Messiah, and they say, only the true Messiah would deny his own existence.
Yeah.
He said, all right, now I'm Messiah. And I said,
he is the Messiah.
He's a very naughty boy.
Yeah. That's exactly it. He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. That's so funny.
I think you sat up there when we mentioned reptilians.
Ben, I watched your videos where you were talking about the Queen. What was it you referred to as now? Her somethingness.
Oh, her reptile, her travesty. Her
travesty. Her travesty, the Queen. I love that. Her travesty, the Queen. I love that. Where you were talking about her, and like her being a reptilian shapeshifter, which is what David Icke has said before, and I must admit, I find it really hard to take seriously. I see no evidence of it. I just don't see it.
I mean, unfortunately, there's no photographs of shapeshifting. What we have is you have multiple eyewitness testimony from people who this is a strange thing. I mean, there's no direct evidence at all. This is the case, and I'm not suggesting they physically shapeshift into any kind of monster, but psychically sensitive people have come from moments saying they see
Ben,
these kind.
I must drop in here because I haven't been sure about the reptilian thing either, but something's happened. I've met a friend who I've been conversing with, a lady, And she told me of an experience when she was 23, long before David Icke came out with the reptilian business. And she didn't know anything about it at the time. She had never heard of shapeshifters or anything like that. She said she just happened to pop into, I think, an ordinary shop, and the woman behind the counter had reptilian eyes.
I have to ask you the question, has she got any psychological history?
She's a good friend.
We've asked that before.
She's a good friend, no psychological history, but it's the first time it had to happen. I've actually come across somebody who says they've witnessed, well, the person behind the counter had reptilian eyes.
Ah. I mean, if we got a royal butler, then I'd be saying, well, maybe, but a lot of these people are people who've, watched TV clips and things,
Mark, Hey, Mark. Butlers and servants, they're well chosen.
Well, this we know.
Well, exactly. Well, I think there is a case to answer. I'm not certain it's true, but there is a case to answer, especially when the reports of this actually go back quite a long way in history, including into ancient mythology. Ancient mythology actually, from many places all over the world, talks about this.
They do, yeah.
They talk about a race of people who were put into power to govern, who are, basically, firstly, they're related physically to beings from the gods. They call them the gods, or maybe they're talking about interdimensional beings, maybe even extraterrestrials, I don't know. And then they say that these people secretly rule, looking like you and me. They look like humans, and they secretly rule in the stead of humans. They become kings, they become emperors. In this day and age, presidents, prime ministers. But I mean, it's a tricky subject, but I think there's a case to answer, especially since I've had experiences with one person in particular.
Go on.
A man, and there's a man. I've made a video about this. I'm still not sure whether it's load, and I won't go into details right now. But there was a man I knew when I was a child. He was a man who basically was abusing me when I was a child.
Crikey.
Who had these kind of. I didn't see reptilian eyes, but he had even back then as a child, I thought he had like dead eyes. He had eyes like a corpse.
Oh, maybe you were talking once, Basil, about the black-eyed children. That's another phenomena. Similar, though.
It is.
Yeah, it's the black-eyed children. There's a guy called Ted Twitmeyer who talks about this, and there's several other people. And there was an article in Nexus recently about people who've encountered these strange children who knock on their door or just come up to them in the street, and their eyes are completely black.
That's right.
And there's no. From not just the iris, but the entire eye is black.
Actually, Ben, now that we're talking about the black-eyed children, you get reports, and many thousands and hundreds of reports from people who didn't let the black-eyed children or youth in. We haven't had, we don't know what happens when you do let them in.
Well, maybe no one's around to tell a tale.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Maybe that's when people disappear.
Maybe they're just maybe they're dead or they disappeared. I don't know.
There's some crazy number of people that disappear every year, isn't there? It's thousands, just in the UK alone.
Considering the surveillance we have, how could you disappear?
Oh well, this is a funny thing, isn't it? We're more surveilled than ever. Yeah, there's more secrecy going on. There's more things like that going on. I mean, as far as someone said in it, I went to a court hearing once because there was an incident about a woman having a child taken away, and I wrote an article about it. I think they said there was 80 Maddie McCanns every month or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's crazy numbers.
Having the McCanns in the papers, really, that's happening at least 80 times in this country every month. Yeah, it doesn't get into the newspapers, so that's an enormous number of. That's close to 100 every year going missing.
Yeah,
they just disappear. Children just vanish.
Yeah. Oh, never mind the adults. More adults go missing than the children as well. I think the statistics for the UK are staggering. I don't know where it is, but it is thousands of people that go missing every year. Some are found around the corner because they've got Alzheimer's and they've wandered off on a bus or something, but a lot of them never appear again. Yeah.
Very often there's no. I mean, some of them you can sometimes find reasons why they might want to sort of like. But in many cases, there's no reason at all.
Yeah.
And then no one can understand why they do it. And also, the same thing happens with suicides. You get disappearance suicides with people who have no one can work out. Even people who know them closely, like their wives, their children, their parents, have no idea why they've done it. And even their best friends and anyone who's close to them can't work out why it has happened. Why has this person vanished? Why did this person commit suicide? And I think that's extremely worrying.
I think that's, unfortunately, that's the subject now for part 2. We've yet again run out of time.
That's it. We've busted an hour, Ben.
And it was
we could go on all...
it's so easy to do it with you, Ben.
Oh, we could easily do 3.
Yeah. Perhaps you'll come back for part 2 if you're not too busy at some point.
I'd be happy to come back anytime you like. That's cool.
Hey, Ben.
I enjoy talking to you guys.
Ben, give a plug of your new show and what you're up to
and
at
your
the
website
moment.
and everything else. Do the whole lot.
Yeah. I mean, everything I do is now on the Hapanwo blog, which is HPANWO. That stands for Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. On there, I have several blogs, which includes news stories. There's a blog for longer articles. And there's a fiction where I write where my fictional material is uploaded, and also the YouTube station is all linked from there. And now the radio show, Hapanwo Radio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There, hpanwo.blogspot.com.
And they can get to your radio show that way, or have you got a direct link for that?
Well, if you go to Critical Mass Radio, if you put that in, and you'll get Critical Mass Radio. That's Poor Future Star Station. Which there's actually a dozen different radio shows you can listen to on there. I mean, you can be there all day listening to the radio. It's
Not
great.
all day. You got to listen to us for at least an hour.
Oh, sorry. Switch over occasionally to Alternative Future Radio if you like. Hapanwo Radio is one of those shows.
Hey, Ben, you keep up your end, and we'll keep up our end here.
Our ends up.
I think it's the carry-on influence.
Keep the British end up.
A pleasure, Ben, and an honour.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ben.
Bye-bye.
See you later. That was Ben. Isn't Ben great?
It's always a pleasure to speak to Ben, and I hope Ben will become a regular.
Oh, I think he's one of the family.
Yeah,
already.
He is. And we need friends.
So many topics that we can cover with Ben. He's just a fountain of knowledge. He seems to know a bit about everything.
Yeah.
We started off talking about media manipulation, ended on black-eyed children, and he was still keeping up. Oh, Ben, he knows everything.
Yeah, it was only the tip of the iceberg, because when we're mentioning missing people, there's a couple of theories about that.
Oh, really?
Where are they going? And we were talking about secret societies, and we were just about to segue, and we ran out of time.
We're bust.
Part 2 has to come.
Definitely.
See you on Facebook, Ben.
Yeah, see you on Facebook, Ben. Everybody else, if you want to catch us on Facebook, then go to www.alternativefutureradio.com and you can get a link to our Facebook page there. Join the group. Why not? It's free. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Out There Hour on AlternativeFutureRadio.com. The Out There Hour, where spooky just got weird.
You're listening to Alternative Future Radio, home of the weird, resting place of the paranormal. Will take you to the furthest reaches of the galaxy and beyond. Strange phenomena, aliens, psychics, cryptozoology, conspiracy, holistic health, and UFOs. Alternative Future Radio, where spooky just got weird.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to a fine quality edition of the Out There Hour.
The Out There Hour on Alternative Future Radio. The Out There Hour with Basil and Mark. www.alternativefutureradio.com.
Yay! No? No yay?
Good morning, Mark.
Good evening, Basil.
And good afternoon.
The world. That didn't go well.
Today we got that a bit mixed up. Today we've got our friend
Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Ben Emlyn-Jones.
Ben's brilliant. He's brilliant. That's the only description he needs.
He's brilliant. He's a hospital porter against the New World Order.
Yes, he's a one-man mission. He's like the Hulk.
He's a one-man mission. He's got a lot of followers, mind you.
He is. Parade one of everything.
Yeah, this is the thing. They let the Maoris with their canoe. The barge was escorted by some Maoris in a traditional New Zealand canoe, and things like that. There was a black man, a black gay man there. I remember, and he was dressed up in a very elaborate costume, and he's making a big I think he felt he was asserting, both his homosexuality and the fact that he was black from one of the colonies. This is.
Yeah.
But I think he was not. He may have felt that he was asserting himself, but again, I think he was the one being paraded. He was being sort of pilloried as a shackled people, both in terms of his sexuality and his nationality.
Yeah, yeah. I take it you weren't there waving your flag then, Ben?
I somehow found better things to do, like sit in front of the TV and just. I mean, I did drink quite a lot, actually. I think it's good for on day, or I would end up like Oliver Reed. I tell you.
Yeah.
I thought it's over.
Yeah, I mean, if that had gone on for any longer, Ben, you would have needed rehab by the time the next Jubilee came. I'm sure she'll live to 120.
I think the only fun bit was they paraded. They did in the party in St James's Park. They put out all the Jubilee memorabilia, and there's one piece of Jubilee memorabilia they showed on TV, which I do approve of, and I think is very appropriate. They actually have a Diamond Jubilee sick bag.
On his YouTube channels and his website.
Yeah, very popular on YouTube. Makes lots of videos. He actually should really get a lot more views on his YouTube videos because they're well thought out and very educational.
Yeah.
He's very accurate with his facts, is old Ben.
Sacked without explanation after working for 23 years as a porter.
He was, yeah.
For his political views.
Bit dodgy, that, isn't it?
And attending conferences and speaking engagements.
Yeah, you can catch him at all those sorts of conferences. He's out and about, Ben. He's a bit like a roving reporter.
The powers that be didn't seem to appreciate it, and they let poor old Ben go.
They did, and he spoke about that on the last episode that he was on with us. And, today we're going to be covering all sorts of things. We're going to start off with...
media manipulation.
Ooh. We also wanted to cover secret societies and the connections between that and media manipulation.
Exactly. Does the media control our minds through our subconscious?
Who are they?
Through the means of TV, magazines, movie, political correctness.
Yeah, who are they? What are they up to?
Who are they?
Who gains?
Why are they doing it?
Yeah, what's that all about?
Let's find out, shall we?
We'll get him on, shall we? You know what comes first?
Are you ready for an adventure? Prepare yourself for more alternative future radio than any human being should have access to. How do you get this? It's simple. With the new Alternative Future Radio Android application, you can download all the latest shows and the archived shows as well. Help support Alternative Future Radio for just $1.99. PayPal will bill you in your very own currency if you don't use dollars. Find out more at alternativefutureradio.com.
Okay, so hopefully on the line, all things being equal, we should have our good buddy, Ben Emlyn-Jones. Hello, Ben.
You have me. I'm here.
Aha! Excellent.
Hello, Ben, my old mate. How are you?
Oh, hi, Basil. I'm fine, mate. Are you?
Yeah, you're keeping busy, as usual?
Oh, very at the moment.
I've been watching your video. Is it safe to call them rants, Ben? I think video rant is probably... I think if that's a new term, you could probably call them video rants about the Queen's Jubilee.
Oh yes, I had a very good rant about that. I did a whole two whole sort of like sections of videos about that, and I did have a lot to say about that.
You did.
The Diamond Jubilee just passed.
Yes, yeah.
Which was I mean, I felt it quite frustrating actually, because there's lots of well-meaning people, who really do. They like this woman, and I find it hard to understand in a way because she's very dark-eyed, kind of very reticent, this ghoulish old thing. She's just sort of like crouches there very menacingly, and doesn't have much facial expression. Occasionally gives a smirk, and people love her. People, it was millions of people. There was 1 million people in London on the day of the Thames pageant, and there's thousands more in, yesterday.
I wonder how many were tourists, though, Ben. How many Londoners turned out?
Yeah. Well, a lot of them were foreign, because they interviewed a few of them. They said, we've come all the way from Papua New Guinea or whatever, but...
from the colonies.
Time. Yeah. I made a good point, the fact that, there was the Commonwealth. I mean, this is a very in a sort of like euphemistic, sort of politically correct sense. You would say the Commonwealth was represented. There was lots of little black and brown children singing, but then the thing is about empires do this. The Romans used to do this. They used to bring the people in from their conquered regions and let them sort of carry out their rituals in public. But it wasn't done. It was a kind of curiosity. It was almost like a court jesters.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually an exercise in power when they do this. They can say, look, these are our conquered peoples. We rule you, but we're going to let you carry on with these rituals, which you take very seriously, these dances and war dances and love dances and and shamanic rites. But for us, they're just entertainment. We just do it because we own you.
Oh yeah, they just parade